What is your birthday? I have a little girl just ring my doorbell.
The 911 call you just heard was the shocking aftermath of two young girls' sleepover. Soaked in blood and unable to talk, 10-year-old Crystal Searles found herself facing death by the face as her life hung in the hands of a stranger who lived across the street. But what exactly happened that night? Why couldn't Crystal talk? What horrors had she seen? And how did one young girl's survival bring the murder of an estimated 22 people to light? This is the story of Crystal Searles, a coast-to-coast serial killer. As the new millennium rolled in 1999, 10-year-old Crystal Searles was more than excited for what the new year held for her, especially because she, her mother Pam, and her two younger sisters, Mark and Amber, were moving to the sunny, quiet town of Del Rio, Texas. See, for Crystal, this move was a dream come true, as she would now be living just next door to her best friend, 13-year-old Kayleen Katie Harris. For her, everything seemed to fall into place, and on December 31st, 1999, Crystal and Kate even held a sleepover, which they, at the time, would have considered a taste of many to come. Sadly, fate had other plans for the two. So as the family polished up their moving plan, Crystal stayed with Kate, and the two spent their day as any set of young girls would. As the night wound on, the two soon retired to bed late in the night, with Crystal sleeping on the top bunk while Kate slept on the bottom. A night of laughter and joy was soon replaced by the calm silence of sleep. But everything would soon change when Crystal opened her eyes to see someone standing beside the bed with his hand around Kate's neck and a knife in the other. With her eyes adjusting to the room's light, Crystal looks around the room, trying her best not to move. It was then that she saw him.
I could see at the end of the bed, this scary guy. He had scruffy hair, long, dark, curly hair, and a big, scary, long, bushy beard that just took over his whole face, and then his eyes were just dark and
At first, the man takes no notice of Crystal, but everything changes when Kate shouts for Crystal to get her mom. In that chilling moment, the man swiftly drives his knife across Kate's neck, sending her tumbling to the floor in a harrowing silence, gasping for air. But the horror didn't stop there, as the man proceeded to stab Kate multiple times as she gasped for air.
I heard Katie at the bottom of the bed on the floor. She was like gasping for air and choking.
Terrified and shaking, Crystal fought to stay silent, knowing her friend's life hung in the balance. She prayed the intruder would leave, but just as he was about to go, he glanced back and spotted her on the top bunk, shattering her hope of escape.
To him?
Yes.
What did you tell him?
I told him I'd be quiet. I promise I won't say nothing. I'm not making the noises.
Seeing the girl, the man closes the door and walks back to her. Petrified, Crystal tried to scoot away from him, but there was no escape.
He just reached over.
Desperate to survive, Crystal falls to the ground and plays dead, praying that the man won't come back and check if she's alive like he did with Kate. Luckily, the man walks out of the room satisfied with his work.
So I got on my hands and knees, and I was crawling across the floor in the bedroom, and I came across Katie. She was kind of making a gasping noise, or maybe she was choking. But then I was trying to comfort her. I laid next to her, rubbing her back, and that's when I realized I couldn't talk, because all I wanted to say was everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be okay, but
As Crystal lies with her dying friend, the worst happens and Kate falls silent. Gripped by fear, Crystal realizes she needs to get some help. With worrisome thoughts racing through her mind, the 10-year-old took huge risks and ventured outside the house in her pajamas. Barefoot and drawn to a distant light with each step, her desperation grows. And soon enough, the bleeding girl began pounding on the door of a nearby house, praying for aid. Unable to speak, she scribbles a note pleading for help with her injured throat and asking the man to call the cops. Scared for her life, she asks one more question to the neighbor. Will I survive?
What is your birthday? I have a little girl just ring my doorbell. Blood.
Around 6 a.m., Pam's world is shattered by a phone call from the Valverde emergency room as they seek permission to life flight her daughter Crystal. With her heart pounding, Pam immediately agrees, her mind consumed by fear and uncertainty. Rushing to the hospital in San Antonio, Pam is met with a sight that chills her to the bone as her daughter lies in the hospital with tubes sticking in and out of her. At the hospital, she learns that Crystal's windpipes were severed. Unable to speak, Crystal's silent anguish fills the room as she asks on a piece of paper if her best friend Kate is okay.
Kept asking me, and I couldn't tell her.
Through tear-filled eyes, Pam tries to convey the devastating news. Kate is gone, and Crystal is the sole witness to the horror that unfolded. As the morning unfolded, Texas Ranger John Allen was assigned to the case, and what he witnessed shocked him to the core.
Crime scene on the floor was a deceased young girl. The crime scene was...
As he took in the crime scene, he was informed that a young girl had survived, and soon enough, he was at the hospital. At the hospital, Crystal painstakingly recalls every detail of Katie's killer, striving to provide the authorities with a clear description. Thanks to a police artist, Crystal's words are translated into a sketch, and almost immediately, the sketch resonates with a family friend who remembers encountering a man named Tommy, who matched the description, working as a used car salesman. Armed with this lead, the police swiftly obtain Tommy's photograph and assemble a lineup for Crystal to identify the suspect.
I told Crystal, we have a photo lineup, and if you see the man that was in that residence that did this to y'all, please put your finger on him. You could see her eyes.
Following this, Tommy Lynn Sells became the primary suspect in the investigation. But when the police went to arrest him, something unexpected happened. On January 2nd, the police headed to Tommy Lynn Sells' trailer. Upon getting there, they find the door unlocked. Texas Ranger John Allen enters and meets Tommy halfway inside. In an unexpected twist, Tommy doesn't resist arrest. In fact, he tells John Allen, "I'm glad I finally got caught," shocking the Ranger. Tommy is informed that he's under arrest for murder, and once again, he shocks the officer as he quickly confesses and agrees to show them the crime scene and how he did it.
Oh, yeah.
I cut her bra, and I cut the side of her, whatever she was wearing, shorts.
And shorts.
Yeah. She made some comment, said, "You didn't have to cut me," or something like that. And I said, "Just shut the hell up."
Born in Oakland, California in 1964, Tommy had a rough childhood with the death of his presumed father and his twin sisters passing from meningitis. Raised by his mother and later his aunt, he struggled with alcohol and alleged abuse. By age 10, he was using drugs, and at 14, he became a nomad. Sells' troubled behavior led to arrests, but sadly, mental health assistance remained out of reach. In the end, Tommy confessed to about 22 different murders in detail, without the police even having to persuade him in any way. Over time, authorities began to suspect Tommy of confessing to crimes he hadn't committed, raising doubts about his many claims. Despite his confessions, many of his alleged crimes remained uncorroborated, leaving a trail of mystery behind him.
I had to testify. I said, "Mom, don't cry. Please don't cry. If I see you in the crowd bawling, you're gonna distract me. You're gonna make me upset."
Sells' final days were marked by legal proceedings where Crystal would take the stand against her attacker.
Were you ever awakened during the night?
Yes.
What was it that awakened you?
Katie's voice saying help. His hand was over her mouth.
Whose hand was over her mouth?
His hand.
The man with the blue jacket and the glasses?
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Tommy Lynn Sells.
Luckily, Crystal wasn't alone as she found strength from another survivor, Christy Reed, who too had survived an attack from a man who slit her wrist and neck.
And he strangled me. He slit both my wrists. You can barely see them, thank God, they're going away. and then he slit my throat and got that scar there, which went across.
The knife that he used, it was like a butcher knife, and it was like that long. With the blade, it'd be like that. I mean, with the handle, it'd be like that long. But I only saw that much of it, and they asked me if it was a pocket knife. I'm like, no. He was...
Let's just have a brief recess then at this time. Bailiff, if you'll just retire the jury.
The legal proceeding was an extremely emotional ordeal.
The premises and my daughter was gone.
To discover...
And in the end, Tommy was found guilty and given the death penalty.
Tommy Lynn Sells have been found guilty of the offense of capital.
That there is a sufficient mitigating circumstance or circumstances to warrant that a sentence of life imprisonment rather than a death sentence be imposed. Answer. We, the jury, unanimously find and determine that the answer to this special issue...
On April 3rd, 2014, in Texas, justice was served as Tommy was put to death for his crimes. With his last breaths, Sells remained silent, bringing closure to the victims' families and Crystal, who witnessed his demise. And with his passing, the chapter closed on the dark legacy of Tommy Lynn Sells.
That power.
But what do you think? Was Tommy lying about his crimes, or was he truly a monster waiting to be caught? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and if you liked the video, please give it a like and subscribe. Until next time, stay safe.